Hello everybody, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about how to work on transformations, and the three types are actually going to be translations, rotations, and reflections. So let's begin with translations. Here we have a triangle, ABC. These are the coordinate points, and the points are plotted and they're connected to make a triangle. We're going to be using this transformation in order to make a new triangle. So what does this mean? This means taking each xy point and doing this to it, adding 3 to each x and subtracting 1 from each y. Now remember that the x-axis is right here. That goes left to right. So if I add 3 to each x coordinate, what this basically means is you move each coordinate point 3 units to the right. And similarly, the y-axis is up here. That goes up and down, so y minus 1 means you go 1 unit down. 1 unit down. So in order to read this, this basically means for each xy point, you move 3 of them, you move it 3 to the right and 1 down. So for this point A, we go 1, 2, 3 to the right and 1 down right here, and we call that A prime. That's how it's said and that's how it's written. For B, you go 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, and 1 down. Once again, that's called B prime. And then for C, we go 1, 2, 3 to the right, and 1 down. We call that C prime. And then we connect them. So notice that the triangles are actually going to be the same. It's just translated. 3 to the right and 1 down. Okay, everyone, let's try another example to make sure you guys got this and to make sure you understand how to read this. So if you understand how to read it, I would give this one a try right here. See if you can come up with those new coordinate points. We're going to go ahead and do it right now. So we have the same triangle, ABC, and we're going to use the transformation xy translates to x minus 2 and y. So once again, when you subtract things from x, that means you go to the left. So this is 2 units to the left, all right? And notice that this y right here, it isn't addition or subtraction, so it's just 0. So we stay the same. So this stays the same, okay? So basically for each coordinate point, what you're going to do is move 2 units to the left, and that's it. So here for this point A, we go 2 units to the left and put it right there. Call that A prime. For B, we move 2 units to the left, put a dot right there, call it B prime. And for C, we move 2 units to the left and call that C prime. And then we just connect the dots like this. So that is the new triangle based on this transformation, which is a translation. All right. So that's how to do translations. Okay, everyone, let's move to the second type of transformation, which is called reflections. So we have the same triangle here, and we're going to reflect it across the x-axis. So remember the x-axis is this one, so we're going to reflect each point across that axis. So we'll begin with A. Notice that point A, which is right here, is on the x-axis. So that means we don't move it. Point A is actually the same as point A prime, okay? Let's move on to B. B is 2 units away from the x-axis. That's 2 units right there. So B prime will be 2 units below the x-axis. B prime is going to be right here. And then lastly, we have point C, which is right here. That's 4 units away from the x-axis. And so C prime will be 4 units down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. So you can actually reflect it across the x-axis just by counting the distance between each point and the axis, and then going the opposite direction. So then there you have your new triangle. That's a reflection across the x-axis. And so before I move on, I want to talk a little bit about the new coordinate points. A stays the same. B, the new coordinate points here are going to be 1, 2, 3, and down 2, so that's -2. And for C, the new coordinate points are 0, -4. So we're going to write those new coordinate points right here next to A, so -1, 0. Here B, this is going to, B prime is going to be at 3, -2. And then C prime is going to be at 0, -4, like that. So what I want to encourage you to do is think about how each coordinate point xy is changing. So if we didn't do it by graphing it, how would we get from these numbers right here to these numbers? So once again, I want to encourage you to pause the video and just think about it. What's the difference between here and here? All right, so as you guys probably noticed, the x coordinates stay the same. So negative 1, 1, 3, 3, 0, 0, those stay the same. But what happened to the y coordinates? They became negative. So negative 0 is still 0, but 2 becomes negative 2, and 4 becomes negative 4. So this becomes negative y. So the x coordinates stay the same, but the y coordinates change sign, okay? So if the original y coordinate was negative, it would turn to a positive. That is how to do the reflection across the y-axis. All right, so that's the reflection across the y-axis. So you probably imagined what's next is the reflection across the, that's the reflection across the x-axis. So what's next is a reflection across the y-axis. So here we have our 3 points, A, B, and C, and we're going to reflect it across the y-axis, which is this axis right here. So let's begin with point A. Point A is a distance of 1 from the y-axis, so A prime will also be a distance of 1 and the opposite side. So A prime is right here. All right. Point B is a distance of 1, 2, 3 from the y-axis, so B prime will be 3 units in the opposite direction. So you got 1, 2, 3 right here, B prime. And then finally, point C is on the y-axis, so that means we don't have to move it at all because it's on the y-axis. So there's your new triangle. Notice that it overlaps a little bit, but that's okay. That's going to be a reflection across the y-axis. So let's write down those new coordinate points. That's going to be at 1, 0. B prime is going to be at negative 2, negative 3, 2, okay? And C is going to be at 0, 4. So, and that's the same as C prime, right? Because it's on the y-axis. So A prime is going to be at 1, 0. B prime will be at negative 3, 2, and C prime will be at 0, 4. So once again, I want to encourage you to pause the video and see if you can determine the difference between these numbers and these numbers. All right, guys, as you probably noticed, the x coordinates change sign. It goes from negative 1 to 1 and 3 to negative 3, but all the other numbers stay the same. So the translation here is going to be xy gets transformed to negative x and y, because the x coordinates are what change sign, but the y coordinates is what stay the same. So that's going to be your reflection. All right, there's your reflection across the y-axis. Notice that the x is negative when it's reflected across the y-axis, and when it's reflected across the x-axis, it's the y that turns negative. So it's just kind of switched, but hopefully with the picture there, it kind of makes sense as to why that is. So this is a reflection of x, and that's your reflection across the y. All right, everybody, so that's translations, reflections, and so now let's get into rotations. So here we actually have a new triangle, XYZ, and we're going to be translating it 90 degrees clockwise. We're going to be rotating it 90 degree clockwise using this map. Okay? Notice that the difference here is that the x and the y values are switched. All right? That's no mistake. That's the case for rotations. And here, the original x becomes negative. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to write down the coordinate points of the new triangle x prime, y prime, z prime, and then we're going to be plotting them. So let's follow this map. For each xy point, you write the original y first. So let's put these numbers, the original y's, right here. So it's going to be at negative 3, 0, negative 2. Then what it asks you to do is to put the opposite of the original x. So we're going to put these numbers right here and change their sign. So you go from negative 1 to 1, 3 to negative 3, and 4 to negative 4. Then we plot the points, and you should see it's a 90 degree clockwise rotation. So from the origin, we got negative 3, and then up 1, that's where x prime is. Y prime is at 0, negative 3, that's way down here, y prime. And z prime is at negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. That's where z prime is. So we connect all the dots like this, and then that's going to be your rotation. So you have to use this map right here. When I ask you to do a 90 degree clockwise rotation, just write down the new coordinate points using this map. Okay, so that's the first type of rotation. There's actually 3 types that we're going to go over. The second type of rotation is a 180 degree rotation. And for this one, actually, you don't switch around the x's or the y's. they just both become opposite, okay? So if they're originally positive, it goes to negative. If they're originally negative, it goes to positive, but you don't switch the x's or the y's. So I'm gonna write down the, the x prime, y prime, z prime, and then we're gonna list out the points and then plot them, excuse me, and then we're gonna plot them, and then we're gonna see what this thing looks like. Okay, so essentially for 180-degree rotations, you make everything opposite. So -1, -3 turns to 1, 3. 3, 0 turns to -3, 0. And, 4, -2 turns to -4, 2. So everything becomes opposite. So x prime at 1, 3 is right here, x prime. Y prime is going to be right here, 1, 2, 3, 0. So that's going to be y prime. And z prime would be at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 1, 2, z prime. So then we connect the dots to make our triangle, and then you have your 180-degree rotation right there. And once again, when I ask you for a 180-degree rotation, that just means to use this map to list out the new coordinate points, plot them, and you have your triangle. All right, everyone, we're almost finished. We just need the third rotation, which is a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. So here are your original points, x, y, and z. And the map for this one is this. So if you remember from the 90-degree clockwise rotation, you switch the x and the y's, but the original x was negative. Here you also switch the x and the y's, but the original y is negative. So I'm going to list out the coordinate points right here, and then we're going to plot them, and then that's going to be our rotation for 90-degree clockwise. So let's take a look at the map here. For each xy point, what goes in the first number is the opposite of the original y. So these are the original y's. We're going to list them right here and make them opposite. So you go from -3 to +3, 0 stays at 0, and -2 to 2. What goes in the second number is the original x. So that's at -1, 3, 4. So we have -1, 3, 4. Those are the coordinates of the new shape. So for x prime, it's going to be at 1, 2, 3, and then down here at -1, that's where x prime is. For y prime, it's going to be at 0 and then up 3 right there. And then for z prime, it's going to be at 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 right over there. And so let's go ahead and label those points. This is x prime, this would be y prime, this would be z prime, and then you connect them to make your triangle, your new triangle, and that's the 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. All right, everybody, so that's it. If there was anything confusing or tricky about that, I recommend going back in the video and pausing it, or you can always email me if you have any specific questions. But those are your three translations. You have transformations, or those are your three transformations. You have translations, rotations, and reflections.